Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Toni Talks. I am Brian Bacchus, and you're not. Something happened. Just the music started going again.
Hey, everybody. Good morning. Welcome to the Altadena Talks show. And this today, of course, is Tuesday when we do the Toni Talks segment. So welcome, everyone. I am Toni Bailey Rains, and I have our special guest, Ian Midgley, with us today. And Brian is almost looking like Darth Vader with the hoodie up.
I'm out of here. Goodbye.
Okay, that's fine. You guys can pop back in if you'd like. So, good morning, Ian. Thank you so much for coming on. I brought Ian in today with me because I met Ian back in February. Mm-hmm. I was having the town hall at Victory Bible Church on March the 8th, and Ian got in touch with me and said, hey, I've been talking to Allison, and is it okay if I come and film her and film a little bit of what's going on for the town hall? And I said, absolutely. So that's how I met Ian, and we've stayed in touch here and there. We'll call or text one another just to see, how everything's going. Ian's family had a house that they lost that, if I'm not mistaken, that you all were renting. And then in-laws' house had pretty severe smoke and fire damage. Well, didn't burn down, but it came so close to their backyard. I think you said about 8 feet from the house. And they were over on Devering and Lincoln. And so Ian texted me or called me a couple of weeks ago. We chatted and asked could he shadow me and just be there at the Ashes to Anthem event. And I said, absolutely. And then at that event, I was like, do you want to come on the show? So today, Ian is with us. Thank you so much, Ian, for being with us. Just tell me in your own words, what from January 7th through today, which is now the 6th. So tomorrow, January, February, March, April, May. It'll be 4 months tomorrow.
4 months. Wow.
What your life, your family, what your experience has been like, and then in turn, what you are doing, because you are actually a documentary filmmaker as well. And I do want to put your website up later. And then, but just tell me what the experience was, and in turn, what you've been doing as a filmmaker because of the experience that everyone has had.
Yeah. I mean, I'll say, first of all, these 4 months have been the longest 10 years of my life. Yeah. It's crazy how 4 months is a long time and a very short time. And it feels like it's been a very long time. For everyone up there. So I lived on East Marigold Street in Altadena. My wife and I moved there about 5 years ago, and we had been in different parts of LA County for about 20 years before that. And I loved Altadena. It was just like this, I would say that we never took it for granted. Every single day I would get out of the place and look at the mountains and just loved it and wanted to stay there forever. I planned on hopefully staying in Altadena for the rest of my life. Yeah. I love the mountains. I love the people. I loved how diverse it was for being kind of like a rural, small town vibe, close to the city, but nature. I would go for hikes after dropping my daughter off at school. And there's always really cool community events to go to. So on January 7th, it was so weird because, we knew the winds were coming and we knew that we might not have power that day. Edison had told us we might not have power. So I was kind of on alert that whole day. Mm-hmm. And my boss, actually, I work on TV show, showrunner Josh Bingham. He lived in the Palisades. And so that day, I knew that his house was probably burning. He had to evacuate. And so I was more on alert because of that. And I kept going outside and looking up at the hills and scanning for smoke. And around early afternoon, actually packed a few to-go bags. In hindsight, I wish we had packed much more than just what we needed for 2 days, you know?
Yeah.
But fortunately, as a filmmaker, I had like all of the footage that I've ever filmed in my life on one hard drive just in case of a fire.
Oh, good. And you took that.
I put that in a bag, yeah. So
Good.
that was the thing, that if I didn't have that.
How many terabytes is that hard drive or that drive?
That was just 24.
Okay.
24 terabytes, yeah.
Yeah,
No,
I was going to say it had to be if it's everything you've ever filmed. I knew it was terabytes, not anything less than terabytes.
Yeah, and that had all the footage. My first documentary feature I made, and all the like short docs and just random things I filmed with people over the years, because that stuff is just priceless, you know, like moments captured with people. And so then, yeah, that night when the fire started, we heard the power went out and we heard a helicopter go over, and I looked outside and we saw the glow from the fire, and I could tell that it was probably in Eaton Canyon, which is not too far from East Midgley, as people know. And that's just the closest that I've ever seen a wildfire, you know? And we still didn't have electricity, and I went inside, and it was weird because we had our candles going inside and it was real quiet except for the wind. And my wife was in there, had just finished making dinner for our daughter, and so we're kind of like calm for a moment. I'm like, I gotta go tell the neighbors about this. So I ran around to like all the neighbors on our end of the street, and we're banging on people's doors, and the wind was really crazy, and just telling people about the fire.
Maricopa and Santa Anita?
Yeah. So that's just 1 block west of Christmas Tree Lane, pretty much.
Right. Yeah.
And so I told a whole bunch of my neighbors about the fact that there was a fire, and then people kind of started leaving. People who had kids on our street were leaving. Like, I can't just kind of sit in our house and wait to see what happens. So I think around 9:00, we took my daughter and our 2 cats, and we didn't take the cats at first. I also had behind who owned the house, right? And he lived in the kind of guest house, and that's Benny Maupin, who is a famous jazz musician. And so I was his tenant.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so I had gone up back there and told Benny about the fire too a few times. It was kind of getting him ready to be like, we might need to go. And he was like, I've been through a lot of these. I guess we'll just see what happens. You know, he told me since then that he's been through experience where he's had to like evacuate all the way down to Long Beach or something like that one time, get away from, I can't remember the name of the fire, one that was not too many years ago. And yeah, I can't remember. It might've been that one. Yeah. Anyways, so we kind of started leaving, and then there were so many cars evacuating, and I saw some, you know, police lights, and I was like, we got to go back and just leave. And so we went back and we got Benny and we got our cats, and we went down to my in-laws' house on Deverian, and then we kind of waited there for a while, still with power. All the street lights went out at one point, and as you know, like no one had cell phone service and there was no power, so like you really couldn't call anybody to see what was going on. So the weird experience was like, we're in the middle of this disaster and the wind's crazy and there's fire up in the mountain, but we couldn't watch the news or anything like that, so we didn't know what was happening in the middle of it, you know. And so eventually around midnight we took the whole gang. So we took my wife, and I took my daughter, our 2 cats, my in-laws, and Benny in like a caravan down to LA, and we ended up
I'm thankful you went back and got Benny.
Oh yeah, I mean he was going to come with us no matter town without him. It was a matter of we were going to drop my daughter off at my in-laws' house and then go back, but when I saw the police cars, I was like, we might not be able to get back, so that's why we turned around and just went back and got him. Yeah, and Benny, he didn't take anything but his medicine with him, so all of his instruments were destroyed in the fire. Like,
I heard about that.
His bass clarinet that he played on Bitches Brew, Miles Davis was in there. All his instruments that he played on his solo albums and he played with Herbie Hancock were destroyed because we were kind of in a rush and didn't know what to get at that point. You know, like none of us really got very much of value, but I really wish that we had taken some of Benny's instruments because assumed we were going to come back the next day. You know, we didn't really think it. We always thought it was just going to be, we're just going away because we might not be able to be there a day or two, and then we'll just go back.
Well, that's the thing. Like, you know, growing up in Altadena, we've had fires. You know, we call it fire season, right? We know we're dry. We know, but the crazier part is January is not our fire season. Our fire season is June through like November, right? Which is also our summer, because we have Indian summer through November. So we know we're going to be dry. We know usually August through maybe November, we have our Santa Anas. And people keep saying, oh, yeah, you guys had Santa Ana. No, these were not Santa Anas. This was another wind event, but this was not a Santa Ana. Santa Anas are warm and they're in the fall. And so when, you know, growing up there, obviously you're worried about fire, but we never had to evacuate and then think you're not coming back, you know, the next day, because they get the super scoopers and everything and all, you know, they race to the top of lake because they got to save, you know, Mount Wilson. They go up Echo Mountain, they go in the back, Rubio Canyon, whatever. And, you know, after a couple hours or the next day, if you evacuated, you're back. Yeah. You know, no matter what, like it's never come down all the way down the mountain, right? So for it to, and I think because of that, there's so many, and we've heard the stories of people that didn't make it out, right? Because nobody ever thought we would need to leave, and no one would go back. And then the whole town would be gone within 24 hours, basically, right? So that's probably why you guys and Benny, you didn't think about getting his insurance, because it was like, oh, we'll be back tomorrow or in a few hours or whatever. Yeah, exactly. And once you realized that you weren't going back in a few hours, right? Because of how horrible it was. And I guess if you were in Devarian and then it started coming that way and you had to get to LA, what was that like for like the caravan, all of you? Like, this is unreal. Like, this is not happening. Yeah, it was very surreal. And the thing that was very strange too, I mean, first there were confusions about cars we're going to take and everything. Like, we left one of our cars at their house. Father-in-law wanted to take his GTI, because he loves that Volkswagen he has. And we're like, no, you can't take a separate car. You got to drive the other car. And so when we finally got out, though, we drive into Pasadena and there's hardly any wind there. And there's just smoke everywhere. And, you know, you're kind of driving clouds of smoke. But by the time we get to, you know, through Pasadena into LA, taking all the surface streets, it was like calm. And it was so real to kind of come out of that and it feel like you're in another world that isn't touched by what we had just gone through, you know? And then, like you were saying, you know, we slept on my friend's floor on a mattress that night. He didn't have power, so I woke him up with a flashlight, and he thought I was trying to rob him, which was really funny. Fortunately, there was no shots fired, and so we stayed there. But I remember, like you were saying, you couldn't believe it. You know, the next morning we looked on our phone and started seeing kind of the maps of where the fires were. And we heard that our friend's house that was right next to Eaton Canyon burned, and we kind of expected something like that. But then later in the day, when my neighbor across the street texted me and said, like, the whole street's gone, I didn't believe it. I was like, that can't be true, right? And it couldn't comprehend it, right? No, a few more, you know, trying to get messages from other people, and finally we got a video from, I think, a utility worker or a firefighter that was up there filming houses, and we saw the video of the whole street. And then that sunk in that actually I couldn't believe that a whole block was gone like that, you know, because I heard something like this was paradise, and that seemed like one of the worst things that had ever happened in fire history, you know, or San Francisco from back in the day. And it's just really hard to comprehend that a whole town could be gone in one night. Well, I remember, literally overnight. Within 24 hours, I remember I have a friend who lives on Allen and like Midwick or something, right? And then her sister, who's a physician, lived right around the corner from where my parents' house is. Like, we're at Wapelloa, where it ends at Mount Curve, and you go up Mount Curve and they're like 6 houses up, right? So I remember texting V, and I was like, hey V, is Tran and her family down there with you? Are you guys okay? Or did you guys have to evacuate as well? And she said, hey, what are you talking about? We're in Japan. They travel all the time.
Oh, wow.
Like her sister's kids. And I was like, so you don't know? And she was like, no, what's going on? And I had to tell her, like, Altadena's gone, basically. I said, Trent's house is gone. My parents' house is gone. Because their mom would stay between her and Trent. And so my dad walks a lot. Her mom walks a lot. They would see each other in the street. And I was like, and she said, what are you talking about? And I had to send her a video.
Yeah.
Like that my daughter had sent me of, you know, the neighborhood on fire, different stuff like that. But she literally had no clue. And she was like, oh my God, thank you so much. And I think she was going to call a neighbor. I said, I think you're okay, but this is where it started. Cause she's not far from Eaton Canyon, right?
Yeah.
Being on Midgley. And so she found out her house was okay. I still haven't talked to her to see if they needed remediation because they had just gutted and redone like their whole second level, the attic, all this. So, and I got to talk to her, but we've texted a couple times. But I remember having this text conversation with her, and she was like, "We had no clue. Thank you so much. We're in Japan."
Wow.
And so they come back to finding out that the whole neighborhood up there was gone, our neighborhood up there, and that her sister's house was gone, right?
Jeez.
So, like with this talk show, Altadena Talks, right? Brian, as you know, and you talked to him and Jamal on the last weekend, but it started because okay, I'm back. Can you hear me?
There we go. Yeah, you froze.
Okay, there it is. Yeah, we both kind of froze. We're buffering for a second. But, you know, and that's how this started, is that literally like because of Brian and the next day, and you know the whole story, right, about him going live and going down to Brookside and going live. So you being a documentary filmmaker, like I've looked at some of, you know, on your website, Ian Midgley, and like you've done things about Mississippi, reversing Mississippi, and like traveled and lived places for years to do documentaries. So now the city, the town that you lived in and your home burning and all of that, you started doing what you do, right?
Yeah.
You took your hard drive, which was a blessing because everything you've ever filmed was on there. And you have your camera, obviously, right? Which is
I got a new one.
Oh, did you not take your camera?
No, yeah, all my camera equipment was destroyed in the fire, but I had insurance on the camera equipment, fortunately. So that was kind of like the one silver lining, was that I got to upgrade my camera.
Yeah, your camera is nice. The one you were following is right. It's really nice, big, and Brian, you're on mute, but I knew he would pop in because he lost.
I feel your pain. I lost all my camera equipment, drones, and everything.
Wow.
So I feel your pain. That's all I wanted to say.
Yeah. I figured he'd pop in because I was just going to say that. Like, Brian lost hard drives. Brian lost all kind of stuff because, again, nobody thought, okay, we're going to have to be, you know, gone. We'll be right back tomorrow. So
I did grab my laptop and two of my best hard drives that I had all my stuff on with my clients. So yeah, I did think to do that. That was it.
That's good. I mean, absolutely nothing.
I've heard some horror stories from some filmmakers. They briefly, one of my friends, Andi Timona, who's a filmmaker, lost like all this footage of her son growing up that burned in the fire. And then this other woman that I met was Sarah was making a documentary on film, and she had been filming for 10 years, and she lost all of that in the fire.
In Altadena or Palisades?
Altadena, yeah.
So there are a lot of you that lived up there, filmmakers that you know, and lost a lot. 10 years worth of filming gone?
Right? Can you imagine that?
No, I can't.
I didn't know what to say, but so I felt real lucky about it.
What do we say? Like, so that's a whole nother thing, Ian, right? Like, what do you say to somebody that just lost their whole life, right? Their house and everything, or not only their house, but their livelihood, right? If it's a filmmaker and somebody that's been filming for 10 years, like it's gone. And so I think what I've learned through this is, and I keep saying this, show grace and just be present. Sometimes that's all people need is for you to be present.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that it's about saying, yeah, that's awful. That's got to be really hard. And that's kind of all you can say, because as someone also who talks to people who didn't experience, and people try to say different things to be like, oh, well, at least you didn't own the house, or at least it's just things or something like that. And people are trying to say things that are supportive, you know, and sometimes it's just not the right thing you want to hear at the time, you know? So I think
not at all.
I think
I'd rather just say nothing and just like, can I give you a hug, you know, or something like that. Yeah. And you know, for me, I'm sitting in my house, right? Didn't lose my house, right? But my sister has been displaced because those condos burned down. Hers didn't burn down, but it got so much interior damage. Everything inside is a wash, like all of her, you know, clothing, all of her furniture, all of that, like hers. And I think it's 4 or 5 others, maybe 6 units didn't burn. The whole rest of the complex burned, but she's displaced now for at least a year or 2. And it's got to be gutted on the inside, right? And the walls, the insulation, different stuff has to be replaced. And then my parents, 57 years, lost theirs, right?
Yeah.
And so I talk about how going up there a few weeks ago, watching and talking to the people that were, you know, doing the debris removal, how I felt like, oh, great. Now this is like the finality. My whole life is being loaded up into a dump truck and taken to a debris site, right? And so for me, though I wasn't physically living there or in Altadena, it still is like, it's so impactful, right? Because your whole life is. I remember driving up lake to see Lomau to school, and PUSD, I guess, I don't know how, but within a couple of weeks, it was flattened. Yeah. Meaning all the debris was gone. It's just dirt. Well before like a bunch of the houses were really starting. And I was like, dang, they got that done quick. And, you know, Lomau Park is where I went to preschool, but Farnsworth Park, a block up from my house, we would walk down Wapello to Lake, walk up. We'd always be there in the summer. And so the stuff that's gone there, right? It's like in Elliott, you know, we'd walk down to Elliott, and it's just so devastating to see everything gone.
Yeah.
Places that, you know, you grew up, I remember going the second day, I was on the freeway. I was like, I got to get to my family, or I got to get out there. And they called me like, no, we're evacuating from my nephews in Pasadena. And I was like, why? And I knew it wouldn't get that far down because he lives in Old Town area. I couldn't even fathom that it would get that far, right?
Yeah.
I guess they got evacuation orders because how bad the smoke was and how it did start going Lincoln, right? And so they were like, well, we don't know. So I was like, well, I'm on my way out to you guys. I don't know if I thought, is there something I could do or what? But it was like, go that way. Well, I'm on the 210, and by the time I get to Sierra Madre, I think, or whatever, San Gabriel, I had to get off, and I just see it so black, and the traffic is pretty much stopped. And so I get off, and I start going like up Sierra Madre Villa towards where PHS would be, right? I just couldn't. And they did have police saying, no, you can't go up this way. And so I had to turn around and kind of take the streets back. And I remember talking to my sister on the phone and saying, where are you guys? And she said, oh, we're on Foothill. And I was like, where? Because I'm on Foothill. And we were both going to Arcadia, and they were a little ahead of me. And I was like, well, I got to see my dad, like pull over so I can see my dad, right? Because my parents were with her or following her. They were kind of caravanning. And so, because I'm real close to my dad. And I just needed to make sure my dad was okay.
Yeah.
Because, you know, everything he did was for us in that house when African Americans couldn't, right? And especially on that side of the lake, and making sure that we always had And so all I knew is I needed to see my dad. Like I could talk to him on the phone, but I needed to see him, to touch him, to make sure he was okay. And so my sister pulled over and I pulled behind them and I walked up to the passenger side. My mom was driving and, she rolled down the window and I asked him, hey, Dad, are you okay? And I think I just started crying because, I know I'll be okay, right? It'll take time. It's traumatic or whatever, but my dad is 87.
Yeah.
88 in a couple of weeks. And I was like, I can't lose my dad behind him losing everything. Behind this fire and him losing everything. So I just needed to touch my dad and make sure he was okay.
Yeah.
And but then it's just been a nightmare, for everybody. And we do this every day because it has impacted all of us so much, so deeply, and will for the rest of our lives, right?
Yeah.
And I got a good friend who lost her mom in the fire, and she came out. She lives in Texas. Her brother's here, and I'll text her or leave her a voicemail, but she still can't talk to me really. I talked to her once, and she's like, "I will call you." I think she texted me last week, like, "I will call you." And I'm like, okay, but I constantly text her or call her and say, "Hey, I love you," right? Just to let her know. Because I didn't lose my mom or my dad in the fire, right? They're still here. But she talked to her mom every single night and every day, but every night before either went to bed, and her mom didn't make it out, right? And their dad died a few years ago. And so, because her brother is still here, their mom's house, all that has been on the news, the different attorneys have been there. And it's just, all I want her to know is I'm here for you whenever you're ready.
Yeah.
And I love you, right? And so, because that's all I can really do. But for you, just like Brian, because Brian has drones and all these other, stuff, and he went live, which is why we have this podcast now. You started doing literally a documentary based on what you experienced, what your town and the city of Pasadena has experienced, and you've been going all over. So talk about that a little, and the places, the things that you've gone, and just what you're doing.
Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing, Toni, your experience. That's a lot. And I'm so sorry for your friend. That's something I can't imagine. There's someone always has gone through something worse than this fire. I feel like, it's, look, I was there for a few years, and I feel like I lost my memories and things that I had with me that reminded me of my family members who are no longer here. But some people lost their town. They lost their whole childhood, like you, whether you were still living there or not, but the house you grew up in, and that's something that I try to keep in mind when I'm talking to people and filming folks like you is what it would be like to lose your hometown, and that's something that's kind of inspired me, because I love the place and I love my neighbors. My next door neighbor had been living for, I think, 50 something years as well. And I loved hearing stories. And so as a documentary filmmaker and someone who also does a lot of community work and in touch with the community, different kind of community organizing things that I've done over the years, I kind of tried to find what was a topic within this and be something that I could do to be of service to the community of Altadena. There's a lot of people that started filming about the fire itself, and I think that's important to tell the story of the fire and the tragedy. I think something that I find to be important is also telling the history of the place and the stories of what it was before the fire. And so what I've settled on was really focusing on the history of Altadena and also the rebuilding of Altadena. And the fire is part of that, but it's just a part of that. And so, I've started filming really at this point with folks who are experiencing what they're experiencing right now. Some people that are still living on the edges of Altadena, some people that have been displaced, some people that are doing advocacy work within the community. There's so many groups that are doing really important work, whether that's helping remove homes when they can't afford it, or providing support to people who don't have a way to navigate insurance or rebuilding, or even just where to live right now, because people don't have anywhere to live, a lot of them, or people that weren't insured don't have the coverage to pay for a rental. And then also following some of the groups that are doing soil testing in the area to try to figure out what health risks are to people, because there's just so many different things to think about. And so we've been filming with kind of what's going on the ground a bit. And then also we want to document the history of the place, you know, whether that's from the Tongva people that residents years ago, not even that long ago, really, though. And then were the primary denizens of the land for a long time. And then one story of some of the settlers that came in, you know, people that came into the community had ideas for plans that didn't quite come to fruition because of the economic downturn earlier in the 1900s, and moved.
Oh, like the Woodberries.
Yeah, Woodberries. And
the
folks that came from the Midwest and you know, populated the area, but then also the history of Black folks that moved into the area because of the community that 50s into the 60s, and then moved redlining, and then also because of the 210 freeway that grew northwest Pasadena and displaced folks. And you know, where I came in was at a point where Altadena was a really diverse place because of all these different people coming together, and it was just so beautiful and special. And so I really am hoping to tell that story of what it was, and then weave that into where it's going and like what Altadena will be over the next several years, and kind of stay in touch with folks and with people as that rebuilding happens, and see what it looks like for, you know, what does home mean to people? Why do people want to stay or not stay? What are the different things that are, you know, the different projects that people are putting into place to do advocacy work? How is that going to affect those individuals that want to stay in Altadena and rebuild? You know, how are the economic forces of LA County going to affect them? And so it's a lot. It's a big scope, but hopefully tell that story through kind of these specific lenses of people that we're in touch with, you know. And like I said, we've also, you know, trying to do this in service to the community, I'm also partnering with the Altadena Historical Society. And part of our project right now with the Historical Society is to start doing an oral history project. And there's going to be a presentation at their Juneteenth celebration that focuses on kind of the Black history of Altadena. And so that's kind of the first project that they're doing that I'm collaborating on them with. And then move on to do kind of oral history of the rest of Altadena. So that's also something that I'm collaborating with, doing this bigger form documentary that will probably end up being some a docu-series of some type, you know. And so figuring that all out, because we're still in the beginning phases of just getting on the ground and filming. These things can change a lot over many years, you know, what the focus ends up being. But I think that this is kind of the story we want to tell, the history and the rebuilding. That something that people outside of Altadena are interested in, but also is like a historical document for Altadenans to be able to watch, and people in Pasadena and the area to watch and know what the history of the place, you know. And what did the community do when like the worst thing happened to the community? And I think the thing that's so amazing to see what people are doing in Altadena, like, I don't know what you would hope that people would do in the face of tragedy. It's all coming together and taking care of each other. Even on that night of the fire, you know, it's the fact that the warning systems didn't go off in so much of Altadena. From what I understand, I never got a warning or evacuation order. Is like me going to my neighbor's house, and I've heard stories from pretty much everyone I know up there. People went to each other's houses to check on each other. And got each other out. The fact that there was a horrible amount of deaths in the area, but there could have been so much more.
Well, so many more. Yeah.
If it wasn't for the fact that it was such a community that cared about their neighbors, you know?
Yeah, I've told this story, but I don't know if I mentioned it to you, but my sister literally saw the fire start when it started, because she lived right there across from where it started on Little New York, in the townhouses, Dove Creek, right? When you turn off Altadena Drive or you're going. And so her dog was barking like crazy. She went upstairs and looked out of her window, her balcony, her bedroom balcony, and literally saw the fire at the base of the tower.
Oh my God.
So that morning she had packed some stuff and told my mom pack some stuff just in case. She said the Lord told her to pack a bag, right?
Yeah.
And she did, and then told my mom, and so my mom did as well. Well, that was at like 6:32, right? When it started or whatever. And she saw that. And so because the winds were so bad, she went outside to as many neighbors as she could run to on her block to say, hey, we got to go, get out, you know, we got to go, there's fire. And she did get out, but like I said, the majority of the complex burned down except her and 5 others that had severe smoke damage. But 2 days later, because her skin was, you know, like, what is going on? So she went to her esthetician and she got burned from the embers.
Oh my gosh, no
Just
way.
going around telling her neighbors.
Wow.
She didn't even realize, but her face was raw. So her esthetician gave her, you know, the right moisturizers and stuff for her skin.
Jeez.
Because it was like having sunburn, but it was from the embers.
She was so close. Jeez.
That close, right? And when she went out, because how the winds were swirling already, the embers, you know, as she's telling people, she was running through them. I guess she didn't remember that there were a lot, but you know, they can be very small. They don't have to be large ones, and they travel. And so she got burned like that. But you know, it's just that's how Altadena is, right? Like human nature, right? For the most part, whether it's Altadena, Pasadena, Sierra Madre, whatever, we would hope that people would want to make sure their neighbors are okay. But yes, Altadena is very close knit, very diverse. And that's what I really hope comes back is our wonderful close knitness. Will probably be more closely knit, more diverse. I know a lot of people are saying, oh, we need to incorporate. And I don't want to see Altadena incorporate just because we've never been incorporated. And, you know, once you become a city, I don't want to merge and become part of Pasadena because we're not. And if we were to incorporate and become the city of Altadena, of course, we'd have to have a mayor, municipalities, all that kind of stuff. And things just change. You know, a lot of times, like now, we don't have sidewalks above Altadena Drive for the most part, right? And usually city, they want sidewalks. So they're going to take part of your, you know, land or whatever for that. And you can't park in front of your house or you'll get ticketed or have to have a pass. And, you know, all the stuff that comes with cities, I really don't want. That's me personally, right? And a lot of Altadenians don't want it. Although a lot of the new Altadenians are saying, oh, we just need to incorporate. And we're like, no, we don't. And if you want to incorporate, go move to a city that's already a city, right? like don't try to come and change our town because we love it. It's been for all these years, these decades, right?
Yeah.
And I get that they're feeling that way because they feel that the county let them down because of the water issues, because of, and you saw at the town hall that I did for the builders, my brother, I had him speak first because he's a fire chief for Cal Fire. And he literally told people, and I wanted him to, about what happens. And unfortunately, with the winds the way that they were, there was no way that Altadena could have been saved by the fire department, right? Meaning helicopters couldn't go up at night. The winds 80, 90, 100 miles an hour. We're not going to send people up to have a sure death or accident be worse, right? Worse. Super scoopers couldn't come to that area. The winds were too bad, right? And I get it because, again, you know, twice in my family houses, we know we've got people that are on and that watch every day that lost lots of houses. Marcus may or may not be on today, but his family, the Betts, the Jenkins, all of them, they lost like 9 houses. We've heard the Benns lost 20 houses. So many people have lost so much. And the fact that now, like, the community is coming together, right? You've got, oh, there's Marcus right there. We don't have neighbors. Yeah, they are friends and family, right? Altadena is that. And And so, yeah, I don't want to see us incorporate and take that away. And I don't want to see a lot of changes. Now, people are also upset because they're like, oh, everybody needs to build back the way it was. And people like Margot, the one that broke ground after 56 days and got her permit, and she's shown the way her house is going to be. I personally love the house, the way it looks, because it's ultra modern. I like the modern look, right? And it's black. And people are like, oh, like on the Beautiful Altadena Facebook page, they're like, oh, I don't like that design, da 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 da. And I think I commented last week and I said, well, that's the beauty of everybody being their own land/homeowner.
Yeah.
They have a right now to build back what they want to build.
True.
There are a ton of builders that are either associated or come from this area. Joel Bryant, who's an Altadenian. I met a guy recently at an event, triplet. He's one of the triplets, and I didn't know, but he is, I got to call him today. I forgot to call him, but he's like, hey, I can help. I know Kevin Daly is on here. The people he's associated with have, I believe it's First Choice. They've had some town halls and different things. And what I do like seeing is that the community is coming together to help the community, right? Because this is our community and we want to see it built back. And so whoever people choose to go with, let them go with them, right? I say vet them. I say be very careful, be mindful, find out who's behind it, who really has the license versus somebody being the face and they may not. Do your due diligence, check that license, check their bonds, check their insurance, call the companies and verify. That's what, when I had the town hall, that's what I did, right? And so, but the fact that the community then is saying, hey, I talked to this surveyor, he's going to charge $4,000, but he says if he gets several of us in a row, he'll charge, less because it'll be more volume. The same with builders. They're saying if everybody in your block or a certain number, right, however many, I don't care if it's 1 or 10 or whatever, but do right by the people, because now people are, oh, it's going to be $800 to $1,000, yada, yada, yada. Everybody doesn't know exactly what it's going to be because everyone's lot is different. Everyone's plans are different. Everything that they want is different. So just be mindful, do your due diligence and do what we have to do, obviously, to build back and build back much better so that we can not have this happen again, right? And insurance won't act super stupid like some are and say, oh, we want to insure you or we're going to give you a 100% rate hike or whatever. But the community piece that you spoke of is so important. And to see how we've all tried to help in whatever way we can, right? Your helping is doing this documentary, not only for yourself, for the community, for the Altadena Historical Society. My way of helping is being here 5 days a week and hosting a builders town hall and hosting a panel at the Anthems to Ashes to Anthems, fair and concert and whatever else. Brian and Jamal, who are on here with me, Brian started it out of his grieving or his what do I do next? And then Jamal, because their friends came on, and Jamal's piece, they're both in the background doing what needs to be done so we can have this conversation, but making sure the announcements are right and, reading those and everything that we're doing. So I think that everybody in our community, Altadenians, whether they're in Altadena, when it burned down, whether they grew up there and they may be in the next city over or whatever, but you're an Altadenian, like really coming together to help one another, to get the word out, to promote someone's flyer if they're having an event or whatever, and not letting anyone forget about us. Because your documentary or docuseries won't allow people to forget, right? It will be out there forever once it's edited and all out there, and people will be able to really see and won't be able to forget this, that happened. And so I'm super thankful you came on today, that you shared, you're talking about what you're doing. Brian, one of you, can you guys put Ian's website up? I know that you don't have to say it because I put it already in our WhatsApp. We have a whole WhatsApp. And they're with WhatsApp. They ping me at night. I see it the next morning. Thank you, Jamal, for actually bringing it up. But this is Ian Midgley. Pronounce it. It's Midgley, right?
Midgley.
Okay, filmmaker. And these are just this is your work, right?
Yeah,
and,
this is stuff that I've made.
Incredible. Thank you for putting his website up, so anyone who wants to can go and check that out as well.
You can also check out, so we have a website for the documentary at this point, and that's called, it's easy to remember, AltadenaStories.com.
Oh, great.
So if people want to get in touch with me or want to get involved in the film, supporting it or being in it or anything, hit me up at, check out AltadenaStories.com, and there's an email. Get in touch.
Oh, I just went. Oh, perfect. See how good they are in the background? They're just like, we say it, they're on it. We say it, they're on it. So let's see.
And that has more information about me, and we have some other folks that are working on the doc with me, but right now it's focused on me, so people know who I am.
Now tell me this, because you talked about, and I'm sure your the landowner who lived behind you, he will be featured. You've talked to him and all of that, and you got him out. But your in-laws who lived on DeVarian and Lincoln, you were saying that their house right now is still in the remediation phase, because on DeVarian, we know DeVarian basically burned down, or a lot of it, from Lincoln till over Midway or so. And theirs is one that on the east side of it, at Lincoln, their house is still standing. And I know that's devastating, and they're displaced like you all are. I know you all are in South Pass, and they're in
Highland Park.
Okay. And they're not sure if they're going to come back yet, or what's going to happen after remediation or whatever. But how are they doing, mentally? Because they've lived there, you said, a very long time as well, right?
A few years us. So not too much longer. But they, I think that it really rocked them for a long time. I think now they're doing better, but they're older as well, and so when that kind of thing happens to you at a point in life when you're trying to settle down and just kind of enjoy life and spend time with your grand and whatnot, it's, I think, very, very difficult. Harder maybe than for younger people that maybe are still in like kind of a state of things changing a lot in their lives. I don't know, but yeah, it was hard for them to navigate everything, and I know that they were really shook up and kind of had a hard time processing just day-to-day things for a long time, like a lot of us, but they're doing all right now. They're in a stable place now, and they have a room there that my granddaughter can sleep over in. So that's what's
nice. Well, that's a little bit of normalcy. That's what I keep saying. When I talk to people, and I try to be very mindful, and I say, I'll ask how people are doing. But even outside of that, I ask, like, when they say home, I say, well, your temporary long-term housing, right? Because home is where they want to go back to when they rebuild. And I know that, a lot of people, my sister, my mom, a couple of friends of mine that are displaced are like, it took them a few months, probably 2.5, just to be able to cook, apartment they're in, because they're used to their favorite. Everybody who cooks has a favorite pot.
Oh yeah.
Favorite pan or skillet, a favorite utensil, wooden spoon, whatever that they cook with, and everything is gone. And so just that in the displacement is like, how do I cook a meal again?
Yeah.
Right.
Where's the thing in the cabinet? Where's the pot go? It took me forever to figure out in this kitchen, just where do we put the Tupperware?
Yeah. And then, I don't have that spice that I like. My mom loves making curry, like chicken and different stuff, right? And so if you don't have that and you go to want to do it, then that is another trauma trigger, right? And you're potentially balling again, right? And just like, and so I always we try to ask on this show, like, how are you doing, to anybody that comes on, especially because I'm friend that he wants to have his documentary out. Ask him, Corey. I'm sorry.
This one's probably going to be, because there's a few different ways to do it. We could start releasing it year by year, but so far I've been planning on, try to film through into rebuilding and have it come out, kind of years into the future. So this is probably more of a long-term project, but we also do have the Altadena Historical Society project is a part of that, and that stuff's going to be coming Juneteenth. Yeah.
Now,
so that's a smaller piece.
That is going to be not sold, shown? Is it going to be maybe at the library or somewhere? Like, I don't know what Juneteenth events are happening today, right? We will begin to hear from them, from Altadena Town Council, maybe from LA Parks and Recs. I'm sure, and I'll text Mika later, but I'm sure they will probably plan something at Loma Alta Park just because, it's reopening May 17th. But as of today, I can't say, oh, you guys, this is happening.
Yeah.
But for Juneteenth, if it's going to be released as part of that celebration, I'm just wondering, and I know, Ian, you'll text me or call me as soon as you know too, where will that be released or shown or whatever?
I think that the Altadena Historical Society usually does something at Loma Alta Park, that part of that Juneteenth. So there might be screening it there. I'm not sure though. I should be better informed, but I'll let you know.
Yeah. And now that was brought up, I'm going to text Mika later and ask her, who's the one from the county that's over the parks that I've been dealing with, and ask her, and I'll text you and let you know too. But there was another question from somebody that
suggestions.
Do you have any suggestions for someone who may want to begin?
I mean, the incredible thing about modern life is that we all have documentary tools in our pockets now, and so I think that it doesn't really matter the quality of your camera to tell a good story. And so filming what's happening around you, like when I make documentaries, a lot of the time, any footage of anything, if it's an important part of the story, is, priceless. So yeah, I think it's documenting what's going on, how you feel, getting the who, what, when, where of what is going on in your life on any particular day. Those are like the journalism: who, what, when, where, and how. Those are the questions you ask yourself, talking about what's going on for yourself, for people around you, asking your family how they're feeling on the day, what they're dealing with, and just, stuff with your phone and saving that stuff, and don't lose your footage.
What's really important that comes out of that? Everybody that's going to remain, or even people that buy lots and build, this is the perfect time, not only to document that process, but for insurance purposes, because a lot of people have found out insurance gets super stupid and wants to, oh no, well, what about this? Document whether you buy a fork, whether you buy glasses and plate, like document, right?
Yeah.
Also document, keep all your receipts as you rebuild, because for insurance, God forbid this ever happen again. But now in hindsight, we all know, like, oh, I need to document this in my, these shoes, this clock that I have, this, because they're like, oh, well, if you didn't have a receipt or documentation of it, you can't prove it type stuff. I've heard people, being told that by these adjusters or given all these runarounds. And so, yeah, you're right. We walk around with documentary tools and mini computers in our hands every single day. And there's so many ways that you can save it, right? Like to an external drive that has terabyte storage, because that's going to be your best bet, right? Because you can have lots of it. And we know from this podcast and Brian informing us, you can't bank on, oh, I'm going to go live and it's staying there. After 30 days now, a lot of the platforms are like, look, our cloud storage is filling up. So after 30 days, we're releasing it. And they're telling you, oh, go here and download your profile and all the stuff that's on it so you don't lose it. Most people, if it's not live, if it's something that they filmed and then uploaded, they still have it, right? I know I have my Google Photos. I know I have Dropbox. I know I have, different stuff where I can go. But yeah, thank you, Marcus. He said he's found it even harder to get rid of receipts. Yeah, and just take pictures of them so that if you lose that actual receipt, you have it documented. You have it in your, if you have a Google phone, it goes to your Google Drive, Google Photos or whatever. If you have an iPhone, I know you guys have iCloud and stuff. Take pictures of everything. I don't care if you went out to have a burger. Take a picture of that receipt. because even if it means now you got to say to your insurance adjuster, look, this is my living expenses. I'm having to eat or whatever. Like, do that, right? Go on, Brian. I know you were going to say something before.
Try not to use cash at all, because if you use your credit card, there's always going to be a record with your bank statement, with the credit card statement, with anything that you buy. I know it's hard. A lot of us are used to using cash, but we're post-fire victims now, so I don't take a chance with anything. I use my credit card for everything, so that the records can be pulled up 2, 3, 5 years from now, because they keep those records. Even if they don't, download your statements and save them. Just like Toni said, Dropbox. There's tons of them out there. There's your G Drive comes with 15 gigs automatically with every Gmail account.
Right. And I have a few.
Right. Yeah, I got about 17. So I know where I can put stuff at.
AltadenaTalks Gmail. I have my personal Gmail. I have several. So you have that with each one. And the thing about it is, even if you use cash, take a picture of your receipt as soon as you get it. Even if you come in, take a picture. It has the date, the time, and whatever the location was that you got it. And if it's one of these receipts that doesn't have a name of the company, right, you still can type over it or write it in, what it was, what you purchased, and then you have that. And it's in your phone, in your iCloud, your Google Drive, your Dropbox, whatever, but you'll have those receipts on hand so that, you know, you don't have to worry about, oh my gosh, what I do with it? I forgot it or I lost it or whatever. And then there is a question again in this one that says, has being a fire survivor changed the way you approach filmmaking?
Interesting. That's a good question.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to process that really quickly. I don't think it has too much. I think that it's, I'll tell you one thing it has changed me a little bit about is I think that I feel like I just try to do my best all the time and that it's not going to be perfect. And I don't just getting a little older, or maybe it's just the fact that this unexpected thing happened and it kind of changed how I approach what I'm doing for filmmaking. But it's kind of like just do the best I can with the camera when I can do it, and not put too much pressure on making it perfect, because any little thing that you're doing is like the best you can do, right? You know, at least we're all trying to do what we're doing, whatever it is.
And let me just say this: last Saturday, Saturday, you are such a trooper, because you know, this Saturday is going to be 90, 92, right? It would have been so perfect 2 weeks ago, but it was raining, right? Throughout the day, different times. It did open up a little bit later, and I was all over the place. And you were like, can I shadow you, Toni? I was like, absolutely. So you came, you strapped the microphone, you taped it on me, and I was like off. And for me,
I covered the camera in plastic so it wouldn't get ruined in the rain.
Yes, you did. You did. You were such a trooper to get the stuff. And then trying to follow me. Because 1 minute I was inside, 1 minute I was outside, 1 minute they were like, oh, Toni, can you go do this? And I'm like, yep. And I'm running. And you were in there. And then once you were like, I'll catch up to you later. I'm going to go over here with the guys at the table. And I was like, I know you're tired of following me. Right? Just because the way I was
I need to sit down for a minute. Yeah.
Exactly. And so you did. But thank you so much, because then when you do have some of that footage from that event too, I know that Victory would like some of that footage from you, especially for documenting what happened at Ashes to Anthem from another perspective, because we had some other filmmaker people there, we had drones there, stuff like that. But then you came, you even were up there taping really nicely the panels, the choir singing, all you know, different music and stuff, until you were like, I gotta go because there's something in South Pass and you wanted to catch that. But thank you, Ian, for coming out. Thank you for shadowing me, which I know was not easy that day, because as I said, you saw how you were like, man, I was just literally all over the park, the inside, the outside, everything. But it's so important to you to film all aspects of what is happening right now, that you reached out. And so thank you. That was amazing. And then I know you did go down to South Pass to that event. And we found out, I think there were like 10 events that day.
It was wild.
I found out from you about South Pass, found out from somebody else something in Eagle Rock. Then I heard
really?
I heard Echo Park. I think there was something over in La Cañada.
Wow.
And then there were 4 or 5 events in Pasadena that day.
Right.
And in Altadena, the ladies that, the Kims, I believe, at Fair Oaks Burger, that have been there faithfully serving the community food, having the farmers market, giving away the mattresses. Like Brian tries, or me and Brian will try to go out places on Saturdays. Sometimes we're at the same location, sometimes we're not, so that we can at least say, this is what we did. This is this event that we talked about all during the week. But you were literally out there with your camera as a trooper in the rain that day and everywhere else. Ian, thank you. And even when you came to the town hall, the Builders Town Hall, you got lots of coverage and footage and everything, I guess. And like, you're really out there. And I'm so thankful to have met you, to get to know you more, and to know that you're doing this for all of us, right? The community that you lived in, that your in-laws lived in, that we all grew up in. And just very, very nice. So thank you. So glad to have you come on today and be with us. So I don't know if anybody else has any other questions. Do you know
pleasure.
I don't know which one. Jamil, thank you. She said, it feels good to hear your voice. I miss you. But
can we put up AltadenaStories.com one more time if people want to go check that out?
Yeah, definitely. Because Corey did ask, how do people reach you or to get stories to you? So if you go to AltadenaStories.com, this website, this is the documentary series that Ian has going on.
There you go.
You can contact right there to share your story about Altadena, and he'll get in touch with you. I know that Pasadena also had damage, lots of, so many houses. I don't know the correct number, so I don't want to say, but I heard 100 or something. And then Sierra Madre, I thought a couple of weeks ago only had 4 houses, and I thought they were all wind damaged. And then someone corrected me last week and said, no, there were actually 10 that burned because of the embers that blew.
Oh, wow.
And then there was still a lot more that had wind damage. And then I know right after that, about a week later, when we had the rains, there was major flooding in Sierra Madre.
Oh,
because
wow.
a lady asked me to come up and bring a couple of those signs that I made to her. And I did. But the way I had to go up, I had never been up this area, Sierra Madre.
Wow.
And I went way, way up on windy roads. And drive through mud. And I was like, oh my gosh, where people were literally on this one way in, one way out with shovels, shoveling mud out of their garages.
Wow.
And off to the side of the street. It was pretty bananas.
Whoa.
So there has been damage throughout, but thank you for shining a light on our beautiful, wonderful, fabulous Altadena.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Place like it.
And thanks for all the work that you do, Toni, and all of y'all on the show, Brian and Jamal.
Yeah. Brian and Jamal, can you guys jump on? Because I think we're pretty much done with our segment, but I know you all were there with Ian. Did you have any other comments or questions while Ian is on here for him?
You're doing a great job. I mean, I've seen you out and about. We've run across each other a couple times, and at events, actually.
Right.
And chopped it up a bit. Shared a booth at the benefit concert. Just keep doing what you're doing, man. It's needed. Just like I actually just got kicked out the Rancho Bar group because I shared this podcast today, and the guy going to tell me that, oh, we only want to talk about good times at the bar. I'm like, I lost my house in the fire. Most of the people that went to the bar lost their house, and you just started at that bar like 2 years ago. Now you start this group, and you feel that you have the right to kick out people who are informing the community about what's going on. So,
and the one who owned Rancho is from Altadena and lost the bar.
Exactly, but he's not the one running the group. It's one of the bartenders.
Yeah, I get it, but and Ian, don't take this against you, but some of these new Altadenians who want to and do this stuff, it's like, who are you?
Yeah, my attitude has always been learn from the people from the neighborhood you moved to and listen to the folks that were there before you,
that have been there decades and decades, and
Yeah.
you know, parents,
Right.
grandparents, all that they bought, you know, like the Bins, all their family has purchased, and they lost 20 houses. So, like, you don't get to come into a town and decide you want to change it to how you want it. Assimilate to what the town is.
Yeah.
And then if you want to make suggestions or, hey, we should do this, or what do you think about this? That's one thing. But coming in like that hot is not.
No,
hot
maybe you spend some time there and you realize that, oh wait, I actually like it the way it is for these reasons. Maybe change a little bit, you know.
Jamal, I think you're on mute.
No, he's not.
No. Oh,
He's just looking somber.
His mouth's on mute, natural mute.
Something's going on. He's gonna unplug and plug back in.
Technical difficulties. We'll pause the station identification. We still can't hear you.
No, you want to type it?
There we go.
Oh wait.
Then he froze. Oh, there you go.
Say something. I'm just going to echo what Toni and Brian had said. I appreciate all that you do. It was a pleasure to meet you at the Ashes to Anthems event, and I think you're doing a great thing. And I can't wait to see the footage and the story that you actually tell, based on everything that you're doing. So thank you very much. And your story about how you experienced the fire was it's thrilling. I mean, everybody's is, but it's unique. Everyone's is unique, and it's kind of crazy how you had to go back and gather folks and what have you. So again, appreciate you, and I hope we get to hear from you again many times.
Yeah, of course. I'll be in touch, y'all.
Now we're
come on when he has some footage ready.
I can't. That's so silly.
But when you
we'll have the exclusive premiere here on Altadena Talks.
Right. I'm gonna have him come back on and literally show it here, even if it's a 5-minute clip. Or whatever.
I'll show you some clips.
Yeah, that's what I want to do. But I want you to come and walk us through it, right?
That
Not just
great.
that we talk about it. So whenever you're ready for that, it could be in a couple of weeks, it could be in a month, whatever. I want to bring you back on for that for sure.
I'd love to do that.
Yeah. We are gonna end this portion, which is us, the Toni Talks show, but we are going to allow Jamal to now speak specifically about all the announcements. If you want to hang with us either here or in the green room, you can. One thing I do want to say, Jamal, and we don't have to talk about this once it happens, I just want to give a reminder that starting today through Saturday from 10 to 6 at Victory Bible Church at 1497 North Hill, the Red Cross is there. I know they're in several other locations, which Jamal will cover, but ours isn't on that list, but we are having them there. And then also Saturday, I believe beginning at 10, will be the baby item distribution at our church. So we still have a ton of items, wipes, diapers, all kinds of stuff for babies, toddlers. And so we need people to come and get it. And that's on Saturday, but the Red Cross for Help is at my church today from 10. Oh, it's 11. So at 10 they started, and until 6 p.m. every day this week through Saturday. But Ian, again, thank you so much. I look forward to what we do in a few weeks or whenever you're ready to bring some clips on and kind of walk us through, because I'm sure they'll be from different places, different stories or whatever. But
there's a lot.
Story. Yeah. And so when you're ready, just text me, call me, whatever, and I'll have you come back on for that.
For sure.
Is there anything else from anyone in the audience? In cyber?
Cyberland.
Well, there's the audience.
Yeah.
Sounds good, Marcus. Look forward to it.
Yeah, his family is the ones that lost like 9 houses overall. Yep. And then specifically, he comes on periodically, but he talked about the cremation or the ashes that were lost in the fire and the people that came and helped. So it would be great for you two to connect for sure.
Oh yeah, because that's a whole documentary in itself, just those 9 families.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I find is that each person could be a whole with everything that's gone on.
Well, I think, Corey, that doesn't have anything to do specifically with the fires, but yes, it has to do with community. And there are people that move in to Pasadena, to Altadena, and then want to change things. But that's not going to happen, that there are fewer concerts at the Rose Bowl, because that's their money.
Right. That's mostly Linda Vista people complaining
That's
anyway.
Linda Vista.
Nobody on Arroyo ever complain. They walk outside and go down there and listen to the Beyonce concert.
Exactly. They don't even.
Outside,
Yeah, they just sit on their porches or their lawns or whatever.
and make money charging people to park right there. Because I know when I'm little, I'll make about $400-500.
Maybe a Linda Vista person, but that's null and void from the beginning, because that's how City of Pasadena makes the money. And they're gonna listen and go, yeah, okay, lady, whatever.
Yeah.
But
You could sell. You could sell. You don't have to live there and tolerate the madness. I mean, you have enough. Your property is worth enough that you can. No, I want to live here, but you need to be quiet. Get some earplugs.
Yeah.
or they give all those people the schedule for the football games, the soccer
Go
games.
on vacation.
Toodles.
Hey, look, they've been complaining about us at the Turkey Tussle for the past 40 years, right? But UCLA comes there and makes the loudest noise every other Saturday. We come one time a year, and you want to talk about us. Go sit down, take several seats in the back.
That we talk about, like, being Altadenians, Altadena, Pasadena people, whatever. And when new people come and buy in the area because it's beautiful or whatever, but they don't know the traditions, like, who are you to think you're gonna come change anything? This is how we like it. That's why we're still here, and that's
we are a community,
right? So I say some of the newer Altadenians, not everybody, but some that are like, oh, where you going back?
Like I never knew it was going to be like this.
Yeah. So it's just like, yeah, okay, whatever, right? But and you have probably noticed, Ian, that we are extremely protective of our community.
Yeah.
Extremely.
We're like, what? Like, how long you been here?
No, you're not bringing that. Sorry, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Because we're just close knit like that, and we love our community and love the way it is. So it is what it is. But yeah, thank you so much. Like I said, you can either stay, you can drop. I don't know what your schedule is.
I'm going to jump off. I got to go do my day job now.
Okay. Yeah, I know, right?
That's work to do.
I gotta go make some crime TV shows.
Thank you so much, Ian, and we'll talk again soon. Okay.
Hey, you can make a crime TV show about Altadena and getting looted by a lot of these people. That's maybe another part of your documentary.
Send me some footage. We'll put them on.
Okay.
Oh, I can send you the people been calling me to hit me up about their properties being broke. So I'll send you some emails.
All right, sounds good.
There's not enough police to cover that either.
No.
That whole community where my sister is, Dove Creek, the 6 standing ones, other than my sister, several have had their doors kicked in and their properties looted, even though the stuff that's in there, they got to get rid of.
Smoked up.
Right?
Yeah.
But people have been doing it over there. And they all know.
These new acid wash smoke-filled jeans, you want to buy them?
What's that community group? And what they've been doing is contacting each other. And then they're like, my sister had to sit there one whole day because AT&T had to come to give them interview. And then some weird guy came. They have a porta pot for workers and came, and she said sat in the porta pot for like at least a half an hour. And I'm like, and then left.
There's a party in there, huh?
Right. So people are literally in neighborhoods looking at houses that are still standing to figure out,
trying to figure it out.
Yeah. So
when the National Guard was here, that was actually great. The looting stopped for a minute. Now, here's the funny thing. When they came, they wouldn't let anybody, once you left up from Altadena and you went past them, you couldn't go back. So they have to, people who lived there had to call you, meet them at where the National Guard was to hand them groceries, to hand them cigarettes, some liquor, something, because they couldn't go anywhere. So how am I supposed to go shop and go get groceries if my house is still standing, but I can't leave to go do anything?
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, because technically a lot of those people that stayed should not have been there. They should have evacuated, right? And they chose to stay. So then they didn't have power. They didn't have, water. They didn't have a lot of stuff because one of my girlfriends was over on Pepper and we went, certain people took her stuff and she walked down to Pepper, New York and got whatever it was and walked back home with it, food or whatever. But technically the evacuation notice, whether the notice came or the police came, they chose to stay. And so once the National Guard was there and in place, it was like, nope, can't come or go. So, it's like, should I have, should I not, should I, whatever. And they were technically there to protect the neighborhood. So, we could say things on each side of that, right?
Yeah.
And it is what it is. So, But yeah, I'll let you go, and so you could do your day job. We don't want anything happening with that.
All right, y'all. Thank you so much.
All right, take care, Ian.
All right,
Bye.
thanks.
Where's Jamal? Why did he pop?
Because I was removing
Ian.
and
there
Jamal did him too, and then he popped in the spot and I removed him.
No, I didn't.
I didn't touch anything.
All right.
Well, maybe he killed himself, and then I thought it was Jamal and I removed him. When I say killed himself, I mean killed himself out of the podcast. Hey, brother, he wasn't trying to make it. He killed himself. Yeah.
Anywho,
Too much for him.
That was a great show. I loved what he had to say. His energy was really, really good too. I liked, I mean, just everything about what he was saying and what he's doing. He was really cool when we met him. Well, when I met him for the first time down at Ashes to Anthem, Brian had met him before. And, you know, he was just mild-mannered, but taking care of business.
Yeah, he's
I can't wait again, like I said, to see the footage.
Yeah, me too. I think it'll be great, and I look forward to bringing him back on and working with Ian more in the future. So it's nice. It's really nice to get different perspectives from all the people that we continue to have on Tuesdays and any day that we bring somebody on. Because I know that, Brian, you are bringing somebody on tomorrow, and it won't be way back Wednesday, but somebody else. You might want to announce that now.
Yeah, it's going to be Lionel Flowers. He works with the Pasadena Friendship Church. Mm-hmm. They're doing an event called the E80 Fire Recovery. I think it's this Saturday.
Okay.
And he's going to come on and talk about that tomorrow. So
nice.
We really want you as the audience to come on and share your stories. I mean, this is really what this podcast is for. It's not just for sharing resources and then talking about things we've experienced, because I know you're tired of hearing about our experiences. But it's your experience. It's the same experience if you lived in Altadena. But we want to hear from a different perspective. You know, sometimes, like even when Marcus comes on, we didn't know about the cremation dog search, and you know, these are things that you didn't know these services existed for free that these volunteers come out and do, like the person that's preserving the bricks from the fireplaces. Remember, Toni, when we were up by my place and I showed you that lady's cobblestone fireplace? Oh, they knocked that down. It's gone. They did that like last week.
She had just put up recently before.
And she put a for sale sign up on her lot, so she's out of here.
I know you
she's
said
like,
that.
I'm not coming back.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, she was the meanest lady on the street, but we all love to see her talk smack to the kids.
Well, and you said she was older, right? You said she was older?
Yeah, she was older and sitting on her porch just smoking, going, I wish I could.
Yeah, so, you know, she may have
family. I was just playing. She didn't say that.
And she might have been like, I'm going to just retire elsewhere, sell this lot.
Yeah. And she'll get a nice size. That lot was pretty nice size. It went way back because they had an alley behind there, so they weren't ordered up on someone. So it's got back access, front access. So it's going to be a prime lot.
Well, one good thing that we're seeing is that these lots are not going super fast and or for ridiculous amounts anymore. They're kind of just leveled out between 50 to 90 a square foot, depending on size and everything, where at first everybody thought, oh my God, everything's going to sell over $1 million. Nobody be able to buy the lots or developers buy, And that's not the case. Mm-hmm. And I think what happened was in the very beginning, when the first couple lots sold, you know, that one that listed for 500 or 565 or whatever, and it sold for 8. But the hype part, I think, is kind of like, hold up, it's not that. You know, and people, the reality is setting in of what will it entail to get permits and to be able to build and all that.
Yeah, they didn't think about that. They thought about, get rich quick. Let's buy a lot and be happy.
Right.
No, it's not going to happen.
And the process and the length of the process that it's taking, you know, the county to do permits or whatever. So
even though they say they're streamlining, still going to take you a couple of months.
Well, shoot, imagine what it was beforehand if this is streamlining.
Oh, it was. And when Charles Moulton was on, as a building inspector, he said, dude, it's like they were behind when there was none of this. And now they're really behind because they don't have enough workers to, cover this. I mean, and even if you hire temporary workers, they still got to learn the procedures.
Well, that's why now the building czar is going to, the permit czar guy, gal, whoever. I think they hired a man, but they said by the mid to end of May, it'll be in place, but they voted on it a couple of weeks ago. And part of that process is instead of it taking 2 to 4 weeks for one, the other, because you got 4 permits, right? And if everybody has to sign off and get those permits and it's taking 2 to 4 weeks, that's 4+ months, right? And so for them to tout, oh, Margot's lot, her permitting process only took 56 days. Well, we know that that's not the average because there are other people that have put in that keep getting rejections, all kind of stuff. And it is taking a lot longer than that. But one department talking to the next is where the hiccup is, or the backlog. And so this permit czar is supposed to be the one that will be able to make it where that is not the case, right? And he can say, okay, yep, this is here. I'm just going to sign off for the permit. So I guess once that person is in place and actually working, which should be by the end of this month, then supposedly we'll see some expedited permits happen. So I hope that really does happen for people.
I don't know if you guys ever saw that movie Office Space, but this movie, they had the 2 consultants coming. They called them the 2 Bobs. And you said something, Toni, that sparked me. And then this guy goes, well, what's your job? Well, I'm the guy that takes the paperwork from this guy and hands it to him. I'm important. This is an important job. No, you're in the way. We need to, here you go. Well, how come that guy just can't hand it to him and have to have you go in between? I'm a people person. This is what I do. Because that movie showed the idiocracies of office politics and having people hired there that you don't even know what they do. And no one's hindering the whole process.
Yep.
That's why I throw that little humor in there. That was funny.
Yeah. So I'm hoping that this person is not just a runner or pusher or whatever.
Got a pile over here this high talking about, I'll go to those.
Right. And my thing is that person can make that decision, but then below him or her, once that decision is made, how many runners or whatever are they going to have to really get this stuff pushed out, right? Because 6,400 homes, we're not talking about Palisades because they're doing all their stuff with City of LA. We know Mayor Bass just fired her permit czar, which was Steve Uberoff, which was our homeboy, but he
ain't doing the job.
No. It wasn't that he wasn't doing the job. He said some things that she didn't like that were true things. And so she fired him. So now they got to get another one or whatever. But that City of LA, that ain't my concern. So they'll figure it out. But for county, they're supposed to have this permit czar. And I really hope that this person gets it done because we've got lots of builders who have put in for permits with the plan check and all of that and have not heard back or keep getting this stuff back of, oh, well, you got to change this. They're putting them in and nothing is happening. And so that's what now is creating the bottleneck because tomorrow's 4 months out and people are ready to actually hire people and start that process. So if they don't want this to drag on for 5 years, right, you got to get this process underway and get these permits issued.
You don't run out of money waiting that long.
Right.
Still got to live. You still got to pay rent wherever you're sitting unless you go get an RV and park it on your lot while they're doing it.
Right. And it's going to harm the county more because right now they're not collecting property taxes on houses because the houses are gone. And the lots, they've made it that for the next year, they're not going to collect on even the lots. So the county cannot afford to have all that revenue that they get gone. So they better get these permits out so they can start rebuilding. And
hopefully we have people that work in the permit offices that love their jobs, because if you get somebody in there that's going to be upset, it's going to be a slower process.
I'm gonna learn it. Shoot, they could give me training, and I'll sit right here at home, and I'll do whatever needs to be done to push it through.
I'll be on the podcast talking about Barbara Jenkins. Barbara Jenkins, come on the show. We got your permit ready. We need to answer a few questions.
Well, you know, all those people that were clearing the lots, I talked to all of them, and they were like, "No, this isn't what I do." But somebody called me and said, "Hey, you want to be on this project? You want to go make some really good money? Here, fill this out." And so they were the ones that would sit, and not the ones that were driving the trucks or doing the excavators, but the ones that were on the lots. They were doing quality control. And all they had to do was sit there all day and take pictures and document. If there was like at my parents' house, remember I said how far down those pilings went? A skeester broke. Literally, they're trying to get stuff going, and that skeester start smoking. And I was there that day. I was like, "What's wrong?" They were like, "Radiator's gone." It literally.
Your roots was too strong for that bad boy.
Like one of the hardest locks we've had to do. And so I said, "What are y'all gonna do?" So they turned it off, let it cool, and tried to fix it. I said, "Call the supervisor, tell him y'all need a new skeester." And so the next day when I went back up, they had a brand new skeester that was bigger and better equipment, to help. And I was like, "Yeah, y'all thought this house was built in like 1960, and it was built well, But yeah, so they had great paying jobs for the time that they were there. So I think that they have to figure that out, right? Are we going to be able to have people that can sit at home and help push these things through after somebody signs off, so we can get these people their permits? Because they can't afford for those houses to not be built back very long. They need that tax revenue.
Exactly.
All right, Jamal, go ahead with the announcements.
No, I was just going to share this real quick. I know we were talking about lots. I found this guy. Where is it? At the stage. Let's do it this way. What the heck?
Oh, who's buffering? Me or somebody else?
Nah, I don't know. This thing is not.
I'm exaggerating, not buffering.
Yeah, I don't know what the deal is. I can't get this stuff to come up.
I can't stand the rain.
Remove.
There's a lot of lawyer-sponsored events. There's one actually today from 6 to 8. Unity of Pasadena. Is that a church? Unity of Pasadena?
No,
not sure.
I think the lady is an attorney or something. I saw it and I saw negative comments about it. So I'm not going to say because I don't know for sure.
We don't normally push real estate agent stuff or attorney stuff because we don't want you to be biased from anything we mentioned and then something happened and now the talk show is to blame for it. We're trying to stand aside. We're community-based. We're not getting paid from anyone to do this. Any contributions that are made through the little things we have on the bottom of the ticker goes to help pay for the podcast and us going to do stuff with the events that we mentioned on the podcast. No one's over here making millions of dollars. There are not donations flowing in, though we would like you to do that. But as we progress through this, we are cognizant of how people look at stuff. So we're trying to be unbiased and bring you just resources, information. That's why we share. We don't hate on anybody. We care less what you're doing, as long as you're not a real estate agent or lawyer. I'm sorry. Real estate agents at this point are not needed to talk to people about how they're going to recover from the fire unless you are looking to help them get residences temporarily while they are displaced. So that's just, my opinion. I don't know if it's part of the shows, that's just how I feel about it. And I wouldn't want to mislead somebody. So I'd rather you just find those on your own. There's plenty of events on Facebook. You can just go to events and you'll see all the events that are going on. We go there too. We are just very selective about certain genres of the industry pushing events. At least I am.
And that's partly because, you know, me, I'm similar to follow the money, but I follow who's behind it. I try to really go deep and investigate. And when people come in and say, oh, we're all Black, we're a construction company, but the owner is somebody lives in Fullerton is Asian, or somebody that lives in San Diego that's, you know, ain't Altadena, whatever, then that's not, you're using people in this area as the face, and that's not okay. And so for me personally, I try to go real deep like that. And all of us love our community and want to protect our community as much as we can. So we do try to vet events, people, you know, builders. Jamal gets all these announcements and he goes through them and checks things. And if it's something that they can't do, they'll be like, Toni, can you check this out or whatever? Just because we want to make sure we're not giving a bunch of crap to the community, right? That's not what we purpose to do.
Yeah, because we're going to be here for a while. I mean, probably to the Olympics. Never know. But we're dedicated, and if not all of us on every day, it's going to be at least one of us. So you will never not see this show. I could be driving down the street. I will pull over and start it at 10 because, or 10ish. Sorry. You're trying to say. I'm going to start at 10.
10ish.
Yeah, 10ish. You know, that's our cue.
Be like, oh, you guys, I stress them out in the background. I'll be like, y'all, it's 5 minutes to 10. We got to start. And they're like,
well, on certain ones, though, we do need to start right away because we want the people, because, you know, this is what happens. If we have a guest, they're going to tell their people they're coming on at 10 on this podcast. So, you know, we got to come on close to that. But
and they'll tell you what they have to do afterwards.
For us, nah, you might get it.
Oh,
we might have an extra.
I have a meeting to go to apparently for my day job.
Oh, you done zipped in? Slide back in.
Because I just checked. Meeting just started. So I'm going to say toodles. Well, no, I'm going to put it on mute and I'm going to go off stage. Because I'm just
going to remove you from the thing. And then when you come back, just ask yourself. Peace. You're back. So you're gonna do the announcements?
I'm having issues. I can't bring it up. Some tech issues.
Okay.
Sorry about
guess
that.
What? We won't be announcing anything today. Just go to the Altadena Talks community group, and you can see the flyers there. Jamal usually slaps them over there. So
I will.
We're just gonna say goodbye now. Then, since you know, we had a good show today. We went an hour and a half, a little bit over, and thank you guys for coming out, checking us out, and we will leave you on that note. So it's time for us to ski down, go give somebody some skibbity paps. I think I'm going to head to Pasadena to go stand in line at one of these things to see about the Red Cross thing. So I'm going to go do that, and I might go visit Victory Bible Church, film a little bit over there.
Cool.
All right, y'all. We out of here. Thank you for making our 80th show a success.
Take care, everybody.
And we're only 20 shows away. That's 4 more weeks from season 3. That's crazy, yeah.
Oh, how time flies.
All right, y'all. Peace out.
See y'all later.
Outro. You got all these new messages.